The planes were carrying cruise ship passengers on a sightseeing tour when they crashed. 4 Americans were killed, including 46-year-old Louis Botha from San Diego. An Australian man and a Canadian woman also died.
News 8's Steve Price is live at the cruise ship terminal downtown with what we're learning tonight. Steve?
And you know, Carlo and Barbara Lee, part of the fun of going on a cruise ship is you get a chance to take those unique excursions that the cruise ships offer. Unfortunately for a San Diego man, his trip of a lifetime took a tragic turn. Neighbors say Louis Botha lived in this Forest Ranch home with his wife and 2 children. They bought the home more than a decade ago. The 46-year-old was director of software engineering at Nextivity. Fellow employees say he was well known and well liked. His family attended services here at Escondido United Reformed Church, where an employee declined to comment out of respect to Botha's family.
It was shocking. It's very sad that folks took off on a vacation on a beautiful cruise, having a good time.
Fellow passengers on the Royal Princess cruise ship were stunned to hear the news. 2 sightseeing planes carrying passengers from their boat on an excursion to see glaciers collided in midair, killing 6 people, including Botha.
We were actually walking in Ketchikan and sirens started going off. And we saw ambulances running and fire trucks. And I told my wife, I've been a volunteer chaplain for about 25 years, I said something tragic has happened.
Preliminary data shows one plane carrying 11 people was heading southwest toward Ketchikan and descended to about 3,300 feet. The second plane with 5 aboard was moving in a similar direction at about the same altitude before the collision. Witnesses raced over to help, and for one of the rescuers, the effort took a sad personal turn.
I'm looking at the floats upside down, realized this is a buddy's plane, so jumped into action, jumped off the ski. We started looking around the plane, around the wreckage, swimming around looking for people. Flying was his life, so he went out doing something he loved.
Botha's cruise started in Vancouver May 11th and has 3 days remaining. Passengers say they are continuing the trip with heavy hearts.
You feel like a community when you're here. It's a community. It's a Princess family.
And it's not clear if Botha's wife was on the plane with him. 10 people did survive that crash.